All right, so you're getting ready for an interview as a medical laboratory technology vocational teacher.
That's right.
Sounds pretty exciting. We're diving deep into some RoleCatcher resources today,
Okay.
career guides, interview guides, and even taking a look at their AI tools.
It's a cheat sheet for your interview.
Exactly. But before we get to the actual interview questions,
Sure.
let's take a look at what the job really is.
Okay.
RoleCatcher's career guide really lays that out for us.
Yeah.
It says a medical laboratory technology vocational teacher doesn't just teach the theory.
Right.
It's also about getting students ready for actual lab work.
Exactly. You're thinking about developing lesson plans, running lab sessions,
Oh, wow.
and even working together to create the curriculum.
So you're really shaping how these future professionals
Yeah.
learn and use their knowledge.
That's the idea.
It sounds like a very hands-on job.
It is.
And honestly, pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And it's not just about test tubes and microscopes, right?
It's not just about the technical stuff, no.
What else is important?
Well, RoleCatcher highlights soft skills, too.
Huh?
You'll be working with students, faculty, even administrative staff.
I see.
So things like collaboration, communication, and making sure everyone feels good about learning are really important.
Makes sense. Now let's get to the interview questions.
All right.
RoleCatcher has so many examples,
They do.
so we'll break them down by topic to help you plan your answers.
Sounds good.
The first category is experience and expertise.
Okay.
A very common question is, can you tell us about your experience as a medical laboratory technologist?
Yeah, that one's all about showcasing your practical background.
Right, so it's not just about listing your past duties.
Exactly. You need to connect the dots for them.
Can you give me an example?
Sure, instead of just saying, I performed blood tests,
No.
you could say something like, I analyzed blood samples using various techniques to make sure diagnoses were accurate.
So you're showing them you have the technical skills, and D, you can explain them clearly.
Exactly.
That's a great tip. What about follow-up questions?
Like what?
Let's say they ask, can you give a specific example of a complex lab procedure you mastered?
Perfect. This is your chance to shine.
Okay,
Choose a procedure that shows off your deep knowledge
got it.
and your problem-solving skills. And don't be afraid to get a little technical.
Really?
Yeah, but make sure you explain it so anyone can understand.
Even if they don't know anything about lab work.
Exactly like you're explaining it to a student who's eager to learn.
I like that. Now, another question in this category is, how do you stay current with industry developments and advancements?
That's an important one.
It's about showing you're always learning, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But you have to be specific.
What do you mean?
Mention actual journals you read.
Oh,
Like the Journal of Clinical Microbiology or Clinical Chemistry. Talk about conferences you've been to.
Good point.
Like the AACC annual meeting. Maybe you even took a course on a new technique.
So you're showing them you're actively learning and staying up to date.
Right.
Speaking of staying up to date, RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you tailor your answers to each specific job description.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's like having a personal interview coach.
Exactly. The AI looks at the keywords and skills in the job posting and suggests how to work those into your answers. It can even point out areas where you might need to brush up.
That's incredibly useful, especially if you're applying for a lot of jobs.
It is.
Okay, let's move on to the next topic. Teaching philosophy and approach.
Okay.
RoleCatcher mentions a question like, can you describe your approach to creating lesson plans and developing curriculum?
This is where you can really show your passion for teaching.
I see.
Think about what makes your teaching style unique.
Hmm.
Do you focus on hands-on learning, problem solving, real-world applications?
Or maybe you like blended learning or flipped classrooms?
Exactly. Whatever your approach, be genuine and enthusiastic.
I love that. Now, a follow-up question that could be tricky is, how would you handle a student who is struggling to grasp a particular concept?
That's a good one.
This is about showing you can adapt and that you care about your students.
Right. You might talk about being willing to do one-on-one tutoring, offering different learning materials, or even working with the student to come up with a plan that meets their needs.
So the key is to show you're committed to helping every student succeed.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about showing your experience and explaining your teaching style.
Right.
But interviewers also want to know how you'd handle real classroom situations.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher gives some great examples of classroom success and challenges questions.
Okay, like what?
A common one is, can you give an example of a successful project or activity you have implemented in the classroom?
So this is where you can brag a little.
A little, but always keep the focus on how the students learned.
I see.
Choose an example that shows off your creativity, your ability to engage students,
Good point.
and the positive impact it had on their learning. Did you come up with a lab activity that helped students understand a tough concept? Did you lead a group project that encouraged teamwork and problem solving?
Make it memorable and relevant to the job.
Exactly.
Now, a follow-up question that often comes up is, how do you incorporate technology into your teaching?
That's a big one these days.
It is. So what are some good examples?
We'll be specific. Mention actual software programs used in medical labs. Things like LIS or software for analyzing microscope images. Talk about online resources.
Oh, what?
Like the CDC's laboratory training website. If you've used virtual lab simulations, definitely mention those.
Why is that?
They show you're using innovative teaching methods.
That's great. I'm going to brush up on those examples.
Good idea.
And speaking of brushing up, RoleCatcher's AI can help here too.
It can.
It looks at your answers and suggests how to make them even better.
It's like having a second set of eyes on your interview prep.
That's so helpful, especially when you're nervous.
It is.
Okay, we've covered a lot already.
We have.
But there are still a few more question topics we need to talk about. Let's dive into those in part 2 of our deep dive.
Sounds good. Welcome back to the deep dive. We're still talking about interview questions for aspiring medical laboratory technology vocational teachers.
Right where we left off, let's talk about collaboration.
Oh.
RoleCatcher says teaching is a team sport.
Especially in a field like this.
So how would you answer? How do you collaborate with other educators and stakeholders to improve student learning outcomes?
Well, you definitely want to highlight your teamwork skills,
Yeah.
but also show that you understand the importance of a broader educational network.
Give me some examples.
Okay, so you could mention working with colleagues to develop units that combine different subjects.
Like what?
Maybe something that combines lab skills with patient care scenarios.
Oh, interesting.
Or talk about working with local hospitals or labs to create internship or shadowing opportunities for students.
So you're showing them you see the bigger picture of education.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Now, let's say they follow up with, can you describe a time when collaboration led to a particularly successful outcome for your students?
That's where a good story can really make an impact.
Okay.
Maybe you worked with a science teacher on a project where students had to analyze water samples from a local stream.
Connecting lab work to environmental science.
Right. Or maybe you worked with a hospital lab to arrange guest lectures from professionals.
So students could see how what they're learning is used in the real world.
Exactly. The key is to show how working together made the learning experience better for your students.
Those are great examples. Now, RoleCatcher also talks about different career stages in this field.
They do.
They outline what's expected for entry-level, intermediate advanced, and senior medical laboratory technology vocational teachers.
It's important to tailor your answers to the specific level you're applying for.
So how would you do that?
Well, if it's an entry-level position,
Okay.
emphasize your willingness to learn from more experienced colleagues and contribute to the team.
I see.
For a more senior role, highlight your leadership experience, your skills in developing curriculum.
And maybe even your vision for the future of the program. So if they ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years within this role? You'd adjust your answer based on the career stage.
Absolutely. An entry-level candidate might say something like, I'm eager to learn from mentors and develop my teaching skills,
Okay.
and eventually take on more responsibility within the program.
What about a senior candidate?
They might talk about mentoring newer teachers, leading curriculum updates,
I see.
or even contributing to research on teaching methods. It shows you're thinking about your long-term career path.
That makes sense. Okay, one last question type that can be tough.
Like what?
Can you describe a challenging situation you faced in the classroom and how you addressed it? It's basically the tell me about a time you failed question.
It is, and you have to be honest.
But how do you answer it without making yourself look bad?
Focus on the positive outcome and what you learn. Maybe you had a student who was really struggling with the lab technique.
Right.
Walk them through the steps you took to help them, like providing extra support, changing your teaching method.
Or even suggesting different resources.
Exactly. Did the student eventually succeed?
Highlight that.
Good point.
What if they follow up with, what did you learn from that experience that you can apply to this role?
That's your chance to show you have a growth mindset,
Meaning?
that you're always learning and getting better. Maybe you realized the importance of personalized learning,
Okay.
or the importance of open communication with students. Maybe you found a new teaching resource.
Or developed a strategy for breaking down complex tasks.
Right. The point is to show that you're always trying to improve.
I see. So turning those challenging situations into learning experiences is key.
Exactly. Now, before we move on, let's talk about RoleCatcher's AI tools again.
Okay.
We've talked about how they can help you tailor your answers, but they can also give you feedback on your delivery.
Really? That's amazing. How does that work?
You record yourself answering practice questions.
And then what?
The AI analyzes your tone, pace, and clarity. It might suggest speaking more slowly, using more engaging language, or even making eye contact with the camera, which is important for virtual interviews.
It's like having a virtual interview coach.
Exactly. And the more you practice with the AI, the more natural and confident you'll become.
That's so valuable. Okay, are you ready to finish up our interview prep?
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right, we're in the home stretch now, getting you ready for that medical laboratory technology vocational teacher interview.
Time to knock their socks off.
Exactly. We've covered so much.
From what the job is all about to those tough interview questions.
Even using AI to help us prepare.
It's really about connecting all the pieces.
Showing your experience, explaining your teaching style, and proving you can handle what comes up in the classroom.
You got it. And remember, you're not just answering questions, you're showing them who you are.
A passionate and dedicated teacher, ready to train the next generation of medical lab professionals.
That's the goal.
Enthusiasm is key. Let that passion shine through in your answers. But there's one question that trips people up.
Which one?
Why do you want to teach medical laboratory technology?
Ah, yes, it's not enough to just like science.
You have to be able to inspire others.
Exactly. Think about what drew you to this field. Was it the precision of the work, the problem solving, the impact on patient care?
Maybe you had a mentor who sparked your love for science.
Whatever it was, connect that to your desire to share it with your students.
It's about passing on that excitement, that aha
Moment.
That's it. And don't be afraid to make it personal.
Really?
Sure. Share a story about a teacher who inspired you.
Or a time when you realized how important lab work is in people's lives.
That personal touch can really make a difference. Now, before we wrap up, I want to mention RoleCatcher's AI tools one last time.
Okay.
We talked about practicing answers and tailoring them to the job.
Right.
But they also have a CV resume builder that uses AI to make your application stand out.
No way.
It analyzes the job description and suggests keywords, skills, even formatting changes.
To make your resume better.
Like having a professional resume writer in your pocket. Wow. So we have the resources, we've practiced our answers, we've even optimized the resume.
You're ready?
I feel prepared. What else?
Just remember, confidence is key. You got this.
Walk into that interview knowing you've done your homework and you're passionate about medical lab science.
You'll do great.
Now for our final thought today.
All right.
Think about how you can use technology not just to prepare for this interview, but to be a better teacher and inspire lifelong learning in your future students.
Interesting.
Virtual lab simulations, online resources, personalized learning platforms. There are so many possibilities.
It's exciting to think about.
You're not just applying for a job.
You're starting a journey
To empower the next generation of healthcare heroes.
Go make a difference.
Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
We'll see you next time for another deep dive into the world of knowledge and expertise.